Welcome to the Female Church Leaders Podcast, a weekly resource for women who love God, love the church, and are called to lead. I'm your host, Kadi Cole, church leader, author, and executive coach. After more than 30 years in full-time ministry, often as the only woman at the table, I understand how meaningful yet challenging your calling can be. That's why I created this podcast, to remind you that you're not leading alone. Each week, I'll share practical tools, biblical insights, and honest encouragement for the real challenges female leaders face in ministry, so you can grow your skills, strengthen your faith, and lead with more confidence and joy without burning out or striving to prove yourself. We drop a new episode every Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it. One of the challenges of leadership is figuring out why certain ministry problems keep showing up no matter how hard you work. You improve the systems, you create better processes, you recruit more volunteers, and yet people still struggle to connect. Or ministry feels like it requires more effort than it should. Sometimes what's missing isn't another strategy. Sometimes it's a certain spiritual gift. If you're joining us for the first time, we're in the middle of a summer series on spiritual gifts, but we're looking at these gifts through the lens of leadership, how to identify them, develop them, and steward them well in the people God has entrusted to us. Today, we're talking about two gifts that often operate quietly, but have enormous influence on the health of your ministry. The first is hospitality, and the second is prayer, or also called intercession. One helps people feel like they belong. The other helps ministries stay spiritually supported. And when either one is missing, leaders really feel the impact. So first, let's talk about the spiritual gift of hospitality. One of the most common mistakes leaders make with this gift is assuming they already know what it is, especially if you've spent years in church culture. Somewhere along the way, many of us started equating hospitality with cooking, decorating, hosting events, organizing meals, or making sure everything looks beautiful when a guest arrives. Now, none of those things are wrong. In fact, people with the gift of hospitality often do think about those details because they care deeply about the people they are serving. If you invite someone to a party at your house, you naturally want to offer them something to drink. You think about whether they are comfortable. You notice if they are standing alone. You make room for them at the table. You introduce them to people they might connect with. You help remove the barriers that make people feel like outsiders. That's why food, events, and hosting can become expressions of this gift. The mistake is assuming those things are the gift itself. The gift of hospitality is actually much bigger. It is the Spirit-given ability to create belonging. It's helping people feel welcomed, included, valued, and connected. It's creating an environment where people quickly move from outsider to insider. And that matters tremendously in ministry. Because one of the biggest challenges leaders face is helping people move from attendance to engagement. Many ministries have people who show up. Far fewer have people who truly connect. But when this gift is present, people feel like they belong. Visitors return. New volunteers stay engaged. Relationships form naturally. People begin to feel seen rather than anonymous. And in many ways, hospitality becomes the bridge between being in the crowd and being a part of the community. One of the easiest ways to identify this gift in people on your team is to watch what happens around a person. Not simply what they do, but what happens around them, to the people they're interacting with. Do newcomers seem to relax when they're present? Do they naturally connect people to one another? Do they easily remember names, stories, and details that help people feel valued? Do they notice the person standing alone before anyone else does? Do people leave interactions with them feeling like they made a friend? The fruit of this gift is connection. That's why leaders really need to pay attention to it. And this is where I think many women have been unintentionally confused. Because for generations, church culture often attached hospitality to traditional expectation around women's roles. If there was a meal to organize, guests to host, a kitchen to run, decorations to prepare, or a gathering to coordinate, many women were automatically expected to step into those responsibilities. Now, some women, of course, genuinely carry the gift of hospitality and thrive in those environments, but others were simply responding to expectations. And over time, those two things became easy to confuse.
I have watched people become incredibly stressed trying to create the perfect experience for guests. The house has to be spotless, the meal has to be perfect, the decorations all have to match, the special guest towels come out. Nobody can touch anything. The family is walking on eggshells. And by the time the guests actually arrive, everyone is exhausted, especially the person hosting. Ironically, the environment may look welcoming, but it's feeling anything but welcoming. That's because hospitality isn't measured by perfection, it is measured by belonging. People with this gift often create connection even when things aren't perfect. They're more concerned with making people feel comfortable, seen, valued, included. As leaders, that's the fruit we're looking for, not whether someone enjoys hosting, not whether someone can perfectly organize an event, not whether someone likes decorating. Those can all be wonderful skills. The question for the gift of hospitality is, do people experience a deeper sense of belonging because this person was present? And when leaders identify and develop that gift in people on their team, ministries become healthier because people stop feeling like visitors and start feeling truly like family. Okay, let's shift to the second gift, the gift of prayer or intercession. If hospitality helps people feel connected to one another, intercession helps keep people connected to God through prayer. The word intercede simply means to stand in the gap on behalf of someone else. This gift brings a person, situation, ministry, burden, or need before God and often continues to pray even after others have moved on. Now, every Christian is called to pray, just like every Christian should encourage, serve, teach, and show mercy. But people with the gift of intercession experience prayer differently. They often feel a deep burden to pray for specific people or situations. They don't simply hear a prayer request and move on. They carry it. They remember it. They return to it again and again. Many of them can tell stories of waking up in the middle of the night with someone on their mind, feeling prompted to pray, or sensing an unusual urgency around a situation long before they know all the details. And while that can sometimes feel unusual, leaders should really pay attention when they see it, because this gift provides something every ministry needs and many ministries underestimate: spiritual support. One of the realities of leadership is that ministry involves more than what we can see. You might prepare the lesson, you lead the meeting, you care for people, you cast vision, you solve problems, and then suddenly you're facing resistance that doesn't seem proportional to the situation. A conflict appears out of nowhere. Discouragement settles in on your spirit. Your family starts feeling pressure from unexpected places. A ministry initiative that seemed full of momentum suddenly becomes extra difficult. Most experienced church leaders have stories like that they can tell, not because leadership is always hard, but because ministry has a spiritual dimension to it. One of the things I often try to remind myself and other leaders is that you can't manage spiritual things, and you shouldn't spiritualize manageable things. Some problems simply need better communication. Some need clearer expectations. Some things need stronger systems to work better. But there are also moments when what you're facing cannot be solved by another meeting, another spreadsheet, or a new plan. And yet, many leaders build support systems for everything except the spiritual battle happening alongside the ministry and toward them. We recruit volunteers, we build teams, we create systems, we develop budgets, we plan events. But many leaders never intentionally build prayer support around themselves. One of the greatest gifts an intercessor can provide is helping create spiritual support that allows leaders to keep moving forward when spiritual resistance comes. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have a huge, massive prayer ministry. You don't need people praying 24/7 around the clock and lifting you up all the time. Those are wonderful if that exists, but it doesn't have to start there. For many of us, it might simply be 2 or 3 trusted people. People who consistently pray for you, pray for your family, pray for the ministry God has entrusted to you. People you can text when something feels heavy. People you know will actually stop and pray right in that moment. I've seen those relationships become incredibly important over the years, not because intercessors remove every obstacle, but because they help bring spiritual strength and prayer into situations that leaders were never meant to navigate without spiritual covering. The same principle applies to ministry. If you lead a care ministry, recovery ministry, counseling, worship, or any ministry where people regularly arrive carrying significant burdens, prayer support becomes even more critical. People need more than information, more than inspiration, more than a class, more than a conversation. They need prayer. They need people who are willing to faithfully bring their needs before God and go to spiritual battle on their behalf. When ministries lack that kind of spiritual support, leaders often find themselves trying to solve spiritually rooted challenges using only practical tools. Needs pile up. Prayer requests receive attention in the moment, but little follow through afterward. People who are hurting fall through the cracks, and leaders can quietly begin carrying burdens they were never intended to carry by themselves. Intercessors help strengthen that spiritual foundation. They help ensure prayer isn't just something a ministry believes in, it's something a ministry practices. And because so much of their work happens privately, leaders can easily overlook them. But mature leaders learn to recognize this gift, affirm it, and intentionally create opportunities for it to flourish. Because some of the most important ministry work happens long before anyone steps onto a stage, enters a meeting, or launches a new initiative. It happens when faithful people quietly bring those things before God on your behalf. So this week, I want to invite you to look for one person connected to each of these gifts. First, think about hospitality. Who around you helps people feel welcomed, connected, and included? Who naturally creates belonging? Who seems to make strangers feel like family? And then take a moment to affirm what you see in them. You may discover you've been appreciating their personality without truly recognizing their gifting. Second, think about intercession. Who consistently prays? Who carries burdens faithfully? Who follows up weeks later and asks how a situation is going because they've actually continued to pray about it? Consider whether God may be inviting you to build a little more prayer support into your own leadership and into your ministry. Not because every leader needs exactly the same structure, but because every leader benefits from the right amount of spiritual support. Now, if you haven't downloaded our Spiritual Gifts Leadership Toolkit yet, this would be a great week to do it. The hospitality and intercession profiles will help you distinguish between cultural expectations and true spiritual gifting. You can learn how to identify the fruit of each gift more clearly, and it will give you practical ways to develop these gifts in the people you lead. You'll find it in the show notes, or you can download it at www.kadicole.com/spiritual gifts. The people on your team helping others belong and the people faithfully covering your ministry and prayer may never be the most visible members, but they are often among the most important. Learning to recognize them, learning to develop them is what great leaders do to bring about health in your ministry. And we are here to cheer you on every step of the way.
I'm so glad we got to spend this time together on the Female Church Leaders Podcast. I hope you're walking away encouraged, equipped, and reminded that your calling truly matters. To keep growing, join us for our next Closing the Leadership Gap cohort at closingtheleadershipgap.com. It's a guided coaching experience, including live Q&A with me, designed to accelerate your leadership journey. If this podcast has been helpful to you, would you please take a moment to follow, rate, and share it? Your engagement helps the algorithms suggest our resources to female church leaders we haven't had a chance to meet yet. And don't forget to follow at Female Church Leaders on Instagram for encouragement and leadership tools designed just for you. You can also follow my personal feed at Kadi Cole, spelled Kadicole. Keep leading faithfully, keep growing your leadership gifts, and I'll see you next Monday because Sunday is coming and you are going to be ready for it.